Well, hey, I'm excited for today to jump into our conversation, specifically because today we get to kind of do like a one-off conversation that we don't typically kind of get to do. Typically, if you've been with us before, most of our conversations are packaged within series. It's like 3 or 4 weeks, and we're going to talk about the same thing for about 3 or 4 weeks. And we had a couple of weeks on the calendar this year that just kind of like were like off to themselves and didn't quite fit. Which means I just kind of get to talk about things that I get particularly excited about, which is kind of fun for me. So today we're jumping into a one-off conversation that I'm calling A New Commandment, is the name of it. Now, as we jump into this conversation this morning, we're going to talk about what I would consider to be the most overused word in the English language. In fact, it's so overused that some of you are just kind of sick of hearing it. The most overused word in the English language, I believe, is love, okay? Love, and some of you just threw up in your mouth just a little bit, just even thinking about it, you know? Listen, like we use this word love for everything throughout our day, right? Now, my 7-year-old even recently was trying to decide, she had a birthday party coming up not too long ago, and she was trying to decide what the theme was going to be for her birthday party. She couldn't decide, and she was stuck between two options. On one hand, like every other day, she would say, one day, I want a hearts party. She'd say, I want a hearts birthday party. She's turning 7. She just loves hearts. Great. I want a hearts party. But then the opposite day, she would say, I want a Cubs birthday party, to which I would go, yeah, I'm cheering. That went on, but she like kept waffling back and forth. She couldn't decide. And after about 2 weeks of this, her brilliant mom just kind of figured it out. She looked at her, she said, Addie, what if you had an I Heart Cubs birthday party? Just kind of get all of it. And by the way, like you love the Cubs, so that would work out perfectly. And she said, that's it. So for her 7-year-old birthday party, she had an I Heart Cubs, I love Cubs birthday party. I'll show you a couple of pictures real quick. This is kind of what this looked like. We just made like a shrine here to with all of our Cubs memorabilia, and then we just added a heart pinata to the mix. It just I Heart Cubs thing there. We just break that heart wide open, which is pretty fitting because the Cubs will always find a way to break your heart wide open, So it just kind of worked that day. But the point is, this word love is fascinating to me because we use it in so many different ways in our life. I mean, here's a short list of things that I love, right? I love my wife. I love my family. I love pizza. I love sleep. I love coffee. I love so many different things. Now, obviously, we don't mean this the same way with all these things. Like we say the same word over and over again. Obviously, we mean it in different ways. But the fact that we use the same word over and over often, I think, just creates confusion for us at times. And the reality is, we're kind of unique in the fact that English only has one word for love, because the reality is many different languages have a variety, like so many different words for different types of love they can use for different things and different people that they love. In fact, Robert Johnson, he's a psychologist in the mid-1900s. He kind of pointed this out in a way that I thought was fascinating and even a little bit convicting to me. He said this, he said, Sanskrit, I don't even know what Sanskrit is, to be honest with you, but he's smarter than me. And he said Sanskrit has 96 words for love. Ancient Persian has 80 words for love. Greek has 3 words for love, and English has only 1 word for love. And then he makes this interesting comparison. Now, this is fun. He says Eskimos, just throw this in there, Eskimos have 30 words for snow because snow is a life and death matter to them. And to have exact information about the element they live with life and death matter to them to have exact information about the element they live with so intimately. And then he goes on, he says, an Eskimo, this is kind of scary, an Eskimo would probably die of clumsiness if he had only 1 word for snow. And then he makes a hard left turn that really just kind of punched me in the gut. He says, we are close to dying of loneliness because we have only 1 word for love. Now, here's the thing about this. I mean, we use the same word over and over and over again, but we obviously mean it differently. And the reality, though, is that we actually love at different levels, right? We actually love at different levels in our life. I mean, you love your family far more than you love pizza. I mean, even really good pizza, And you love your dog most days more than you love coffee. Most days. The reality is we all love on a spectrum. And here's what I found to be true of me. And I'm willing to bet that it's true in some way of you, that you actually love with a lid. Like there's a cap at some point to which you've maxed out or chosen or decided or just defaulted to live up to, but not beyond. I mean, even some of the people who are closest to you, the people who you're in the deepest of relationships with. I mean, you love them to a point. But there's a lid that you've established in your life in the same way there's a lid that I've established in my life that keeps us from actually loving them in the fullest of ways. In fact, there's two ways, at least that I've noticed, two ways that lids get established in our lives. The first one is based on experience. See that bug just come at me? He's like, I do not love bugs. Yeah. First, lid's experience. You love at the level to which you've been shown love. I mean, some of us, you grew up and you got later in life and you look back on your childhood and you wondered why your parents weren't all that affectionate. And like you kind of assumed that they loved you, but they really said that they loved you, and you kind of wondered at times how much that they loved you. And then you met your parents' parents, and everything started to make sense to you, and you recognized that your parents had been loved to a certain point or in a certain way. And based on their experience, they were only loving or showing love, or at least expressing love to a certain point toward you. We find that happen over and over again. And you're no different than that. We love with a lid, the first one being experience. The second lid, or the second way lids get created, and our love is through pain. In other words, you love at the level to which you've been hurt. When Emily and I, about 8 years ago, were in a difficult season of life. I just lost my job. We knew that we were probably going to move, but we were waiting for Emily to finish grad school. And we found ourselves kind of disconnected from friends, disconnected from community. Some of our closest friends had just moved away. I lost my job, and we were just kind of in this like no man's land for about a year. And we were just looking for relationships, looking for community, and struggling to find it. And then one day, about 4 months into that season, we met this couple that we just like hit it off with incredibly. We actually met them at church. And we're at church, and we meet them, and we're like, you know what, we should hang out with these guys. And so we invited them to go to lunch one day, and so we go to have lunch with them after church, and we have like this awesome lunch. Like, you ever have lunch with somebody, especially like maybe with another couple or just someone else, and you're like, man, we could be really great friends with them. Just like connected so fast, just hit it off so well. We're like, man, we could be really great friends with them. So at the end of that lunch, for some reason, I just felt, like in the spirit of sharing openly and vulnerably, I just felt like I just let them know, like, yeah, we're probably going to be moving in the next 6 months. So we left lunch. We're like, man, that was a great lunch. Those were awesome people. Really glad they're in our life. We reached back out for another lunch. We never had another lunch. And all we can assume is that they just decided that, well, if you're only going to be here short term, we're not going to invest in you in this relationship in the season. And that hurt for us. We didn't really spend any more time trying to make new friends in that season. We capped ourselves in that season at the point to which we experienced pain. Now, some of you've experienced this in way deeper ways than that. I mean, you stop trying to connect with other people, at least to a certain point, or at least not past a certain point, based on experiences that you've had with family members, based on experiences that you've had with friendships that went south, based on experiences that you've had with authority figures at work, based on experiences that you've had with people who you thought would never hurt you, and yet they hurt you. And you've allowed yourself to still love to a point, but you love with a lid. And whether intentionally or unintentionally, you decided you're not going past that point. And so my point in all this is simply this. In a world full of people who are looking to be, we'll say, love-struck, so many of us find ourselves love-stuck. Stuck at a point that we're not willing or find ourselves unable to love beyond. And so we do this. We kind of like settle for like pseudo-sharing, like false vulnerability. So you'll share like moments in your life, but you won't share all of those moments in your life. You'll share just enough in a conversation to make it seem like you're sharing openly, but you're not sharing the deepest parts of it all. Or you'll share the facts of a situation without sharing the feelings of the situation. So you'll talk about what they did, what you did, what happened, but you won't talk about what that felt like, how that hurt you, what you experienced emotionally, not factually. Right? This is why, quite honestly, so many relationships in our life feel dissatisfying. Like you're satisfied to a point, but not fully satisfied. This is why people will go years, even decades in marriage and still find themselves at the end of the day, one person looking at the other and saying, hey, do you really love me? It's still a question. This is why even for some people with their best friends, the person that they rely on the most, they still wonder if that person will show up for them when they need them the most. And quite honestly, this isn't new in our time, in our space. This is like just a universal truth throughout humanity. In fact, this is interesting. Near the end of Jesus' life, he actually recognized this in the world around him. And even in his final days before his death, he actually gathered his disciples around for a final meal. And during that final meal together, he actually took some time to speak to their capacities of love. And he challenged their understanding of love. But here's what's interesting. When he challenged it, they were so used to and so numb to the way that they'd been loving for so long that they almost missed his point. And he actually had to come back around again and make it again. Let's look at this conversation. John, one of Jesus' earliest followers, writes this conversation down for us. It's fascinating. Jesus kind of says to them in this conversation, he says, "Dear children, I will be with you only a little longer. And as I told the Jewish leaders, you will search for me, but you can't come where I am going." He says, so now I'm giving you a new commandment. Now, this is interesting in this moment because, at this point, the disciples, good Jewish boys, had 613 commandments to live by. They had enough commandments, you know what I mean? And now Jesus in his final days comes around and is like, hey, I'm going to give you one more. Just in case, I'm going to give you one more. And I can only imagine this moment, the disciples trying to process this, like leaning in a little bit. Like, man, gosh, we already have a lot. Like, what else could he possibly have for us? What's it going to be? I know maybe, we're commanded to give 10% to the temple. Maybe he wants us to give 20% to the temple. I don't know. We're commanded not to murder. Maybe he wants us not to hurt anybody. I don't know. I just imagine them trying to lean in, wondering, hey, he's waited his whole life to tell us a new commandment. Gosh, I wonder what it is. And so Jesus turns around and he looks at them. He says, here's this new commandment for you. Love each other. Now, I imagine the disciples in this moment would look around the table kind of confused by this. This isn't really new. Every good Jewish boy had heard things like this from their earliest of ages. Every Jewish boy had even studied this commandment that had been written about 1,000 years prior, that you should love your neighbor as yourself. Every disciple had traveled and journeyed with Jesus and heard him say the golden rule over and over again, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And so when Jesus says to them, hey, love each other, this isn't new for them. We're talking about a new commandment. And Jesus goes on to explain it just a little bit further. He says, just as I have loved you, you should love each other. And then he goes on to explain to them that this is actually the thing that ought to set them apart from everyone else. He says, your love for one another will prove to the world that you are my disciples. The way you love each other will be the thing that proves to everyone else that you are following me. The disciples in this moment, I could just kind of imagine, and based on the way that they respond, it seems that they're kind of like, hey, like Jesus, we know this. We've been taught about love our entire lives. This isn't really all that new to us. And they actually start to move on in the conversation before Jesus is ready to move on. And they start asking questions of Jesus unrelated to his point. It's almost kind of like if you've ever watched like a White House press conference where the press secretary wants to talk about one thing, but all the reporters want to ask questions about like all the other things that the press secretary has no interest in talking about. It kind of feels like that in this moment. Simon Peter just jumps in and interrupts. He goes, hey, Lord, quick question. Where are you going? And Jesus kind of patiently responds to this. He kind of settles that question. He tries to reassure them that they already know kind of the answer to this. And he even reminds them, he says, hey, listen, you know the way to where I'm going. Thomas in this moment gets kind of annoyed, just jumps right in and he goes, no, we don't know, Lord. We have no idea where you're going, so how can we possibly know the way? And again, Jesus patiently responds in this moment, but it still doesn't seem to help. And so Philip kind of jumps in here. He's kind of like the peacemaker, kind of the negotiator in this moment. He goes, Lord, maybe just show us the Father, and we will be satisfied. Like if you could just maybe show us God, everybody would probably calm down, probably won't get many more questions, we'll probably move on. In this moment, to which Jesus could have easily looked at him and gone, if you haven't seen God yet, where have you been for the last 3 years? But he doesn't. He speaks. He's patient. They talk this out for about 10 minutes. And then after quietly and patiently and calmly responding to all of their questions, Jesus tries to rein things back in and bring them back to the point that he started with several minutes ago. He says, look, guys, when you obey my commandments, you remain in my love, just as I obey my Father's commandments and remain in his love. The disciples would be like, okay, got it. Yeah, we could follow the commandments. Got it. And Jesus goes, okay, so this is my commandment. Wait a minute. Is it commandments or commandments? To which Jesus would probably say to them, look, it's kind of both. Like if you just get this one right, it will take care of all of the rest of them. So Jesus looks at them, he says, here's my commandment. Love each other in the same way I have loved you. To which I could imagine the disciples by this point going, oh yeah, we got it. You just said that a few minutes ago. We heard that our whole life. We got it. To which I imagine Jesus could just look back at them and go, no. You don't got it. Because for thousands of years, the world has settled for a lower standard of love. And Jesus is working to get the attention of his followers to say, hey, I am about to raise that standard. For thousands of years, it's been about, hey, I'll love you when it's convenient for me. I'll love you when I'm able to love you. I'll love you when it works out for both of us. At the most, I'll love you as much as I love me. And quite honestly, we don't do a great job of loving ourselves. And Jesus, that's not how it's going to work for my followers. And then he takes a moment to paint a picture for them. To paint a picture for them of the kind of love that he's trying to explain to them. It's a picture that they wouldn't fully understand for still a couple of more days. He says to them, listen, guys, there's no greater love than to lay down one's life for one's friend. And over the course of the next few days, they would watch their leader lay down his life for them. They would watch as he would be arrested in the middle of the night in the garden. Some would watch as he stood trial. Some would watch as he was raised up, nailed to a Roman torture device, a cross. They would watch as he actually lived this picture out for them. It's as if Jesus is looking at his first followers and going, hey, everyone else is loving with a limit, but not my people. No, my people will love until it hurts. My people will love until there's nothing left to give. My people will do things for each other that they would never do for themselves. My people will set a new standard for love. In a world with an old standard that said, love your neighbor as yourself, Jesus looked at his first followers. And Jesus looks at you. And Jesus looks at me. And he invites us into a new commandment, a new way of thinking, a new way of living, that no longer would the standard be to love your neighbor as yourself, but that his people would actually love each other as your Savior loved you. That there would be no limit to our love. Now, let me ask you this. Isn't that what you want? Like, if you're married, when you got married, isn't that the kind of love that you hoped for? When you met your best friend or when you long for a best friend, isn't that what you hope they would be for you? That they would actually put you first? That they would actually love you more? And that you might actually have the capacity to love them beyond yourself as well. For Jesus, this isn't an exception. For Jesus, this is the expectation of people who are following him. But the challenge is most people go their whole lives without experiencing that kind of love. Because the truth is, you can only love someone to the depth to which you know them. And you can only be loved to the depth that you are known by them. I told you not long ago, my daughter turned 7. She had a birthday. And, there was like the Amazon guy might have I think he had a route dedicated to our neighborhood. Or my house, because the number of gifts that all of her extended family and everybody was just sending in. And I'm like, she does not need more toys. She's good. We're good. But just all these gifts coming in. And she got so many presents, so many gifts, right? And honestly, they all kind of came in. They looked really nice, right? Actually, they didn't come in wrapped because you know how it goes with family. If they mail a gift to you, you're responsible now for the wrapping. So that's really thoughtful. At least send me a bag with it, But most of the gifts she got, actually all the gifts she got, came to her like this. But the most thoughtful gift that she received on her birthday came in a bag like this. My daughter turned 7 on her 7th birthday. She walked out of her elementary school with a Quick Trip bag that she did not take to school with her that day. I went, oh gosh. And she gets in the car and she comes home and I'm like, Addie, what's up with the bag? And she said, oh, my friend Samia brought me a birthday present. So what'd she get you? And she opens the bag and she pulls it out. And in the bag, birthday present from Samia. Let's find this. There's a protein bar. And a bag of Lace's chips. Because she still calls them Lace's chips. And if you mess that up, I will hurt you. It's the cutest thing in the world. She had a protein bar and a bag of Lace's chips. And the most thoughtful gift that she received that day. Why did Samia show up on a random birthday with a Quick Trip bag with a protein bar and a Lace's chips? It turns out that Samia sits next to Addie at lunch every day. And every day, Samia has noticed that when Addie opens her lunchbox, the first thing she eats is the granola bar that's in her lunchbox. It's got a little hit of sugar. And she's also noticed that Addie doesn't have Lace's chips every day. But on the day she has Lace's chips in her lunch, she gets extra excited about lunch that day. And Samia said to her mom, hey, we got to stop on the way to school because I got to get Addie a bar and some Lace's chips. Now, how did she know that Addie cared about these things so much? Because she showed up at the table every single day. And she paid attention, not to what was in her lunch. She paid attention to Addie and her lunch every single day. In a way that she could never express and articulate, I felt emotional when she told me that story. And I had wet eyes as she told me that story because it was one of those loving, of all the gifts I've ever given my kid, I don't know that I've ever given her a gift that personal and that loving. Come on, you can only be loved to the depth that you are known. So let me ask you a question this morning. It's kind of an interesting question. How many people know your favorite bag of chips? Don't write me off. I know it's silly, but hang with me. Seriously. How many people in your life know the things that you get disproportionately excited about? How many people in your life know your favorite memory? the place that you go when everything's hard for you in that season that you just kind of mentally go back to? How many people know the things that you're best at in life? How many people know the things that you're worst at in life? How many people know the memories that you've tried hard for years to forget? Here's my point. We want love, but we limit how much we allow other people to get to know us. And we limit how much we allow ourselves to step in and get to know them. And then we're frustrated and we're disappointed because we're not experiencing the thing that we long for, but we're also not stepping into the spaces with the fullness of ourselves that would satisfy the things that we long for. The reality is, you can only love someone to the depth that you know them. You can only be loved to the depth that you are known. Listen, this is why dinner parties are such a big deal around here. We talk about these all the time. We talk about dinner parties every single week, it feels like, almost, right? You can put that up there, Sarah. We talk about these not because we just love good food. I mean, we love good food. We love chili, all right, honestly. We talk about these because they actually make a difference in the way that we are able to love one another. When we show up in these spaces, committed to connecting, committed to getting to know one another, committing to make each other a higher priority, it actually puts us in a position to experience and to give and to receive the kind of love that we were called to experience and to give and to receive. I was thinking this week, I was trying to think of, hey, like why wouldn't someone want to step into a space like that? And quite honestly, I thought of 3 reasons that came to mind. Some of us, you actually hesitate to step into spaces like this because of past hurt that you've experienced. You've been hurt by others in spaces like this, and that's valid, and that's real. And that's also a natural part of selfless love. Your Savior experienced pain. The point of his life is he gave himself to love you. And part of actually experiencing the deepest level of love is opening yourself up again to let others know you in a way that they could hurt you. The alternative is to continue to be disappointed and to be dissatisfied by the absence of love in your life. Second reason I thought of, not just past hurt, our present priority. Some of us, you go, man, I know like spaces like community and spaces that are built around developing relationships, that are built around love. I know they're important, but I've got so many things going on right now. I'll tell you, a few minutes ago, I told you about the season of life where Emily and I found ourselves kind of disconnected from community, and I was searching for a job. We knew we were going to move. The year prior to that, we had started to kind of get involved in a small group at church, but we never actually jumped into it. I was in a busy season at work. Emily was in a busy season in her education, and we just kept deprioritizing community. And then when I lost my job, and we needed the closest of friends, we didn't have them because we hadn't made time for them. Listen, if you don't make spaces like this a priority today, they won't be there when you need them the most. Third reason I could think of, not just past hurt, present priority, but some of us, many of us, honestly, probably most of us, struggle in some way with what I would call future anxiety. Like the idea of just stepping into a space where you don't know people all that well, where people don't know you all that well, it makes you anxious. It makes you anxious about what may or may not happen in the future. Anxiety is a piece of my own journey. In fact, Emily and I were talking about this just a week ago. We were driving in the car, and I was talking about something, I don't remember what it was. I was talking about something I was anxious about. And she goes, well, and she's a therapist. She's like, great at this, And she goes, the thing about anxiety is that the thing that you're anxious about, like, isn't going to happen. That's why it's anxiety. And I was like, well, if that's true, then I want to just be anxious about as many things as I possibly can be to make sure that none of them happen. Like, you just fueled me in this moment a little bit. But the reality is, we get anxious about things that may or may not happen and most likely won't happen, but they keep us from experiencing the thing that likely will happen if we take a step to experience community. And in fact, in this room, there are people who would tell you that taking the step to jump into a dinner party was actually the thing that helped move them beyond the anxiety that they felt. And they wouldn't trade their life without that step. So, here's what I want to do this morning. We're going to do something a little bit interesting or different to wrap up our time. I want to give you the opportunity to take a step toward community. Take a step toward love. It'll be really simple. It's going to be really easy, but it's going to be a little bit interactive, and it's going to feel a little bit like one of those HR games that corporate makes you play, and you're like, I don't really want to do this. And I'm going to ask you, put aside your presuppositions and just fully engage with this for 3 minutes, okay? I'm going to ask you in just a second. Here's what I'm asking you to do. I want you to find 3 people who share your favorite bag of chips. And not yet. Some of you, the extroverts in the room just like jumped out of their chair. Okay, calm down. I'm going to ask you to find 3 people who share your favorite bag of chips. And when you find them, and if you find 2 people, that's fine. If you find 1 person, that's fine. Whatever. When you find them, I want you to ask them 3 questions. I want you to talk about 3 things. Very simple. 1, is it really your favorite bag of chips, or did they just not have Doritos? You know? So, acknowledge that. Is it really your favorite bag of chips? 2nd, what's your favorite memory? When you think about your last year, or your last 2 years, or your life, what's your favorite memory? What's the thing that you love most to think about? And then lastly, you got a dinner party? Just ask them. They have a dinner party. All right, here's what I'm asking you to do. You ready? We can do this. Some of you are like, I don't know. We can do this. I'm asking you to stand up. And when I say go, I'm asking you to find your people. You ready? I'm going to give everybody a chance to stand up. Okay? Ready, set, go. The extroverts are already at it. All right, take 15 seconds. Take 15 seconds to tie it up. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, can you give yourself a hand real quick? I'm proud of you guys. The extroverts are still talking. It's good. Hey, real quick, how many of you lost your seat? It's good. It's good. How many of you met somebody you'd never met before? Real quick, hands up. Good. Good. Hey, here's what I want to encourage you to do. Come. First off, great job. You guys are rock stars. I like how some of you gravitated towards the corners. So good. Great job. Here's my encouragement to you. Take a step beyond today to open yourself up to connection with other people. One of the best ways that you could do that is what we call dinner parties. You've got a code on the back of your bag of chips, conveniently right there. Don't throw the bag away. You know, you got to keep it forever now because there's something on it. I'm kidding. You got a code there. Listen. One of the best things that you could do for some of you are eating the chips. What are you supposed to eat in here? get me kicked, get me in trouble. One of the best things you could do for you is to take a step to experience genuine relationships with other people on a regular basis. Not when we force you to do it. Not when we make you play a stupid game. It's a stupid game. But on a regular, consistent basis where you might actually get to know people in a way that leads you to love them more than you even realized you had the capacity to. And where they might actually get to know you in a way that enables you to experience love in a way that you weren't sure you ever could. Now, today I told you we get to finish our time together by celebrating a baptism, specifically Rachel's baptism, which I'm so excited about. And one of the things that's really unique about Rachel's story is that community, relationships, opening herself up to people who she wasn't at first all that sure about, was actually one of the most pivotal moments in her own journey. And I want you to have the chance to hear that in her words. Let's take a minute and watch this together.
When I was 15, my dad got diagnosed with cancer. They gave him 6 to 8 months to live, and he did chemo and radiation, and he actually fought for like 18 months, and my dad was a huge, a giant part of my life. He was like the one constant, stable thing in my life. So that was really hard, and I feel like after my dad passed away, my life changed a lot for the worst. I packed my car and drove to California and lived out of my Kia sedan in California. I did a lot of drinking, a lot of psychedelic drugs, and just a lot of like that crazy party girl lifestyle. I came back to Forest Lake in 2023 after living in Vermont for 7 months because I had started seeing my now boyfriend, Blake, and he convinced me to move home to Minnesota. Before coming to the Co for the first time, I was very nervous, not only because I was meeting all of Blake's family, but also because my beliefs had taken a very different turn. So I knew there was a lot of rules centered around Christianity, which kind of made me a little nervous because I've never been much of a rule follower. So that kind of scared me, and I was kind of scared to be judged for my past, but I came in and that was the complete opposite. I wasn't judged for my past. Like, I was accepted with all of my baggage and all of the garbage that I had, no matter what. It felt really awesome to be accepted like that, just coming in really nervous and just having that weight like lifted off. Everyone accepted me with open arms, and from the beginning, the Co just felt like home, and I wanted to keep coming and keep experiencing more of it. I feel like since becoming a mom, I just want to be better in every aspect of my life. I just want to be good for her. I want to be a good role model, a good example. I want to lead her down the right path. I want to lead her to know Jesus, and I just want to be the best person, mom, partner, everything that I can be to show her what that's like. Since I started following Jesus, I've been super called to invite people to know Jesus, and specifically to the Co, just because the Co had such an impact on my faith, and it's just a open, non-judgmental environment to learn more about Jesus with any questions that you have. So I want people to come and experience what I've experienced because I love it so much, and I don't want anybody else to miss out on that. So I invite people all the time, almost every day. I love my church. You'll love it too. Trust me, I know you will. It's great. So I love inviting people, and I know that can be hard for some people, but I'm very open, and I've been told I'm very loud, and I'm just like unapologetic about it. It really doesn't scare me, and I feel like in that way I'm kind of gifted to invite people, and I just feel called to do that. As I get baptized today, I would love to say thank you to my partner Blake for first and foremost bringing me back into my faith and bringing me to the Co, because I would never be as far as I am if he would have never brought me to the Co. And I would like to say thank you to the Dickey family, the Gorings, and Susie Gunst, my small group leader. All of them have unapologetically poured into me and just always had open arms to any questions that I have, and just always been there to support me in my faith journey, and it has truly shaped where I am at with my relationship with Jesus.
I feel like we should have done a tunnel right there. She runs out to ready. So proud of our church. So proud of the space that you guys create week after week after week. Well, she said, I expected to be judged. And it was exactly the opposite. And may that always be the kind of community that we are for everybody who walks through our doors here, who walks through our doors in kids, who walks through our doors in a living room on a random Wednesday night to a dinner party. May that always be who we are.